looking for a friend who can be a generosity snitch. You heard me right. Let me say it again. I'm looking for a friend who can be a generosity snitch. Let me tell you about one. Let me give you an example. As Jesus looked up, he saw all the rich putting in the gifts. He also saw a poor widow. She was putting in her 2 very small copper coins. Jesus said, I'm going to tell you something. This poor widow has put in more than all the others. All these people gave out of their wealth, but she gave out of her poverty. She put in all she had to live on. Well, my Jesus was a friend who could be a generosity snitch. Ever thought about Jesus being a generosity snitch? Well, he was. That's why I'm looking for a friend who could be a generosity snitch. I want to tell you another story about another generosity snitch. His name was Paul. And he was writing a letter from one church to one church, and he wanted to tell them about another church. I want you to listen to how he was a generosity snitch. 'Cause I'm looking for a friend who could be a generosity snitch. Paul said, I want you to know about the grace that God has given this other church. In the midst of a severe trial, their overflowing joy and their extreme poverty welled up in rich generosity. For I testify, says Paul, they gave as much as they were able. They even gave beyond their ability. Entirely on their own, they just said, can we please be a part of meeting these people's needs? They went way beyond our expectations, Paul says. They gave themselves to God, and by the will of God, also gave themselves to us. Well, that's why my friend Paul is a friend who could be a generosity snitch. That's why I'm looking for a friend who could be a generosity snitch. Now, I think you know where I'm going with this. I'm looking for a friend who could be a generosity snitch. And that could be you. That could be you, every one of you who's listening to this morning. So, I'm going to play for a minute, and I'm going to ask you to think of a story of somebody who has been a generous giver. Maybe they gave to you, maybe they gave to you, maybe they gave to somebody else. But I want you to think about a story of someone that you've seen recently who's been generous. So just go ahead. Okay, you got it? Now here's the thing. I'm looking for a friend who could be a generosity snitch. What if that's you? What if you followed Jesus' example? What if you followed Paul's example and you just decided you're going to brag on somebody else today? What do you think? Okay, now here's what I want you to do. I want you to consider making a commitment to God right now that you're going to be a generosity snitch. You thought about the story already. You know the people who've been generous. And now, what if you told somebody else about it? I'm looking for a friend who could be a generosity snitch. Now, if you're part of our Church in the Palms family, I want you to tell me those stories. Send them to me, email them to me, text me. You can sing them to me if you want. But I'm looking for a friend who can be a generosity snitch. If you're part of another community, tell somebody else. Find a creative way to tell the story of somebody who's been generous. Well, I'm looking for a friend who could be a generosity snitch. Now, I wasn't kidding about making that commitment, because here's the thing. This is just a cute song unless you actually make a commitment, a decision to do something about it. So I'm going to play for one more moment, and I'm just going to give you an opportunity. It's up to you. Could you make a commitment that before this day is out, you're going to tell somebody some story about somebody else who's been generous? So you up to date. It's up to you. Would you pray about that right now? Make a commitment if you're willing. Father God, I pray that the stories would flow. I pray that somebody who's listening right now will make a decision, and they'll follow through on the decision to be a generosity snitch. And that so many thanks would go up to you for the generosity that's been poured out. That people would hear about other people being generous, and that it would inspire them to be generous themselves. And that we'd have a generation of people who are inspired to give Jesus like you gave to us. I'm looking for a friend who could be a generosity snitch.